really hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more fantastic music content just like this. Welcome to the Need to Know Music Show with me, Ronan MacManus, here on Switchbox TV. Today I'm joined by an Australian pop rock singer-songwriter who has been nominated for a number of awards and taken the music scene by storm with an energetic, rebellious rowdiness. Please welcome Ali Barter. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you so much.
Do you like my intro?
Yeah, that was great. I liked how you said rock, pop, whatever. That sounded
Pop
really
rock
difficult.
singer-songwriter.
That sounds difficult. That should be like a tongue twister for actors
Pop
or
rock
something.
singer. I've been up. I mean, it's 9 o'clock in the morning here now. I've been up since 6, just doing that pop rock thing.
Yeah, well, you nailed it.
I don't think I did, but there you go. But yeah, so how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. We've had a funny old year
Yeah,
and in Melbourne especially, we've had quite strict lockdown, but
right.
it's lifted a lot.
Okay. So you feel like you sort of maybe might be getting back to singing live at any point, or has that been
Well,
happening?
actually, yeah, I have a gig next Friday night.
Wow.
So
Gig? Is that like in front of human beings and stuff?
in front of human beings, and it was originally going to be like 100 people seated,
Yeah.
and now they've just lifted the restrictions again, and it's going to be standing, and I think 210 people.
Wow.
So
Are those people allowed to move?
they're allowed to move. I'm sure it'll be like segmented off,
Yeah.
like
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry,
it'll be
excuse me.
distanced to some extent, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because you had a weird sort of thing here where when gigs came back between, because we had like a second lockdown during November.
yeah,
In between that time, there was a rule that people weren't allowed to sing along at
really,
gigs, and it was really it was really weird. It was like, well, here's a song oh yeah, you're not allowed to sing along. So here's a song that I just have to play songs that they don't know or like, which is good. I've been doing that for 25 years. So that's quite played into my hands. But it was a really weird role. It was a bit like, so they're not allowed to enjoy themselves, smile or breathe either. Seeing what
no,
that was added to
and
the list.
yeah, at a gig, that what a strange thing.
Yeah, we sort of this. Yeah, we had this idea of like having drive-in gigs, but like with a dodgems you get at fairs. That's
Yeah.
that's the mosh pit.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
mosh pit.
How's that?
That'd
In
be
your
cool.
car, just rocking along.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was yeah. So it was sort of kind of a weird thing. So you see, so it's going to be a live gig with standing people in a venue. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's going to be my full band. So
Wow.
I have played one or two gigs in the last week or so, but they've been solo, seated, very small attendance. And this one's going to be, and because my music is, as you said, rowdy and rock pop. So it requires a bit of, energy from an audience for it not to be horribly abrasive and borderline
Just yelling at
unpleasant.
people. Just yelling at
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah. So I feel bad, like I have played those gigs at like, a Sunday market or a Saturday in the park, and I want to apologize at the end and say, I'm so sorry, this is so out of context. I'm
You
just
sort of
yelling.
feel like you're the sort of drunk on the street corner yelling at people. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So like, this is not how it's meant to be,
Well, it works if on that street corner there happens also to be a riot happening, then it's in
Yeah,
context.
and
But
like
outside of
sirens going past, and maybe there's a building exploding somewhere else.
yeah,
But
yeah. Oh, okay, so yeah, so it's going to be. I mean, this is what I was sort of. I've been sort of when the sort of lockdown thing happened very first, and they talked about driving gigs. It's like doesn't suit the more upbeat bands, the ones that are the kind of
yeah,
more of the sort of rocky sort of bands, or even spoke to a punk band. I don't know how they were going to do a seated gig. It's not possible. Like,
I know it's just so bizarre. But I mean, I
yeah.
think some acts will be able to adapt and do interesting things. But yeah, some it's really tough.
So have you done any sort of online things? I don't suppose it translates that well to kind of a Facebook gig where there's no audience participation at all apart from what you can see on a screen, people
Yes,
chatting
I know.
away. What's that? I mean, have
Well,
you done anything like that?
I've done a few solo streaming things. Actually,
Yeah.
I did a lot of them during the lockdown. I played in Mexico and India and Brazil and the UK and Germany and everywhere. So which was great.
Virtual world tour.
That's right. I know. So
Fantastic.
So that was good. Like, it kept me busy. But it's not the same, like I'm glad I don't have to sing down my phone with no, amplification and, audience interaction,
Yeah. I mean, I did a couple of things on Zoom, which is kind of a bit nearer a live gig because you can actually see people and you can chat. It's more like a house gig. You're kind of chatting between songs, and people can request songs, and they can at least they can hear them singing along like one line behind. So you can sort of see them. At least there's some sort of audience reaction, But you can't really have very many people on those because it doesn't work. So it's a kind of an odd thing. But that's the nearest I got to. But it just hasn't really been ticking that box, has it, for people? The sort of the live stream has not been. It's not been replacing the live gig.
No,
which I suppose is good in some ways because it means there's not going to. People are still gagging for live gigs when they come back.
Totally. And I think people realize that too. And I think, it filled a gap while we couldn't do anything to do that. But then to realize, actually, we want the real thing,
Yeah. Well,
we appreciate live music,
Well, it's that. I think people maybe have underestimated the kind of human beings in a room together because it's what I've sort of said before about the Facebook gig is kind of, it is just like, even if you have like 1,000 people watching you, it's like, it's 1,000 gigs for one. Like, do you know what I mean? The audience aren't in it together. They're all on their own. And there's something to be said for that that sort of sort of immeasurable kind of vibe that happens at a gig, and that audience to artist kind of relationship. That kind of
absolutely.
You can't see it, or you can feel it. That thing that happens,
and they need each other. Like, the artist needs the audience, and the audience needs the artist. Like, the artist feeds off the energy of that as well. Like, it's they're both key players in that exchange.
It's a shared experience that you just can't. Otherwise, you are just drunk on a street corner shouting at people.
That's
what
right.
That comes down to.
And I mean, they all have their place, but
But you've been releasing some music. I see. You're lucky to have a live-in producer in your house.
I am very lucky.
Collaborator.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really good career move, by the way.
I know. Yeah. Married producer, anyone out there who's thinking of coming, it's very handy. So I produced this song, actually did it over the internet with a producer in LA, and then Oscar, my husband, mixed it, and we tracked a bunch of it together. So fantastic. It was kind of, a real COVID recording experience that was good, kept me busy, and we recorded a bunch of songs. So
that are just the ones that obviously 4 days is probably one that's. That's got to be. I mean, I think just the line "Carpal Tunnel" from Masturbation. It's got to be.
I know.
That was brilliant.
That was fun. Yeah, we had 24 hours to write and produce that one. So
So that was for the Quarantune thing, was it? What was?
On Triple J.
Triple J, yeah. Okay, that sort of seems to be all the things that sort of perfect capture of this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. It set the tone if you
and lowered it at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
And but Twisted Up was one that I wanted to mention because it seemed to be a slightly different approach in terms of production.
Yeah.
It's sort of a slightly more sort of bouncy vibe, or like more of a poppy sort of vibe than the sort of your previous music. Was that something you did on purpose, or was it kind of just a result of lockdown restrictions in terms of band members?
No, I definitely have wanted to move more into a pop sound. And my last record, I was like, I want it to be like Weezer, Pinkerton. I want it to be, the really grungy me, and I did that. But I love pop music, and I love, it was pop punk or punk pop last time, and I think it's more pop punk this time, or the pop's just getting edged up.
Switching it around.
Yeah. So it's still a bit filthy in places, but it's a lot shinier in others.
Yeah, I mean, you still drop a few f-bombs in there just to make sure that
Yeah,
it's not totally going down that road.
that's
So
right. I
still
mean,
got to
if
keep it real.
I've always got to have a song that requires a clean version. That my singles are always, yeah. So, but it was good, and I had this band practice the other day with my band, and we were learning to play "Twist It Up," this new song, and playing it in amongst my old songs. I was like, wow, I forgot how rock I was, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun to merge into something new.
It must give it like a bit of a more of a rockier edge then to it, to hear it played by the band. It must be an
Yeah.
interesting shift. It gives it a different edge of going from kind of a completely sort of studio produced song into it being live. What was that feeling like?
Well, it takes a little bit of time, and we have some tracks and some like drum samples from the recording. So the drummer's sort of triggering some different sounds,
Oh, cool.
and we have a little bit of magic in the background in some tracks. And so this song has more tracks, I guess, than others.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just finding that balance. But it's kind of cool. I like how you go to see a live gig and a pop song has like a real guitar solo and like has some of the original sort of like sampled drums, but then it's mixed with real drums in the chorus or something. So it like kicks it up to the next level, but it's still got its, sort of pop cleanness there. So
Yeah. It almost feels like it's your old you is covering the new you. It's like it's a cover song, cover version. Like,
yeah,
quite cool.
It's true. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's it'll be interesting to play it and see how people respond. Also, always when you do something different, it's like that. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. I was listening to the live album which you released start this year, is it, or during this year?
Yeah.
But it was recorded last year because there's an audience there, and it's a rowdy rock gig. But that was really good. It was great. That I really enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Listen to that. You just hear that obviously the sort of ones that stick out, the "you're a piece of shit" and like girly bits are just you could, our audience is just going off on those ones. What was that gig like? Tell us little bit about that, because that again is a Triple J thing, which seems to have been quite an important part of your career in general. But just tell us about that gig. What was that like?
That was great. That was the sort of first headline tour of my album that I released last year. And I think it was the Melbourne show. So it was like a hometown crowd. And, always recording a live gig is a bit scary because it's out of context. And sometimes you just hear the liveness, but you don't hear the audience. But I think they got a good mix of the vibe in the room. So yeah, it was a good one. I liked it. I remember it being a really fun gig.
Yeah, so that really came across. You really sort of felt like you were there, and it's like some live albums you don't necessarily get that vibe as well, but you really felt like you were in the audience for that one. It's well done.
Yeah, they do it really well. Triple J does a thing called Live at the Wireless, where they record a gig from a band. Lots of bands do it, and they strike a really nice balance of it feeling live and not stale and shrieky as it can when it's live.
They can be a bit, and as you say, the audience sort of can feel separated from the mix. You kind of want them to be in as part of it. It's such an important thing. But
Totally.
So that was done last year. That was your album, Hello, I'm Doing My Best album tour. Sorry. I see you had 6 singles last year off that album. Is that
Did
right?
I?
There was 6 releases, I think, last year. Is that right? Maybe that's not right.
Maybe
I counted them wrong.
5.
Oh, 5. Okay. Yeah. But it's like must have been some real momentum built up, and then this year to kind of hit. Had you had plans to sort of carry on that momentum and keep things going like that? What was, so I sort of feel like 2020 has kind of been for some people it was sort of a welcome break. For other people, it was a real brick wall in the way of kind of plans and momentum. Was
Yeah.
that kind of the feeling for you?
Yeah, it was a shame. And, I had a lot of firsts that were coming this year. Like when COVID hit, I was in New York in the middle of my first ever American tour, which I've been, dreaming
Oh
of
God.
for a long time. And so I was going to South by Southwest and I was playing all these
Oh
shows and
no.
had to come home, and I was coming to Brighton to play The Great Escape, and I had all these
Oh
UK opportunities come up, and to come home. And to be honest, like the week I came home, I'm sure to my husband, I was really difficult because I was really sad. Like I was really angry and sad that I had to
yeah.
come home. And, but it is what it is. And I'm just glad that I could make some more music in the meantime. And, it'll, everything happens for a reason. I know that sounds really hippy dippy to say, but I
No,
honestly
I
think like,
believe that too. I
yeah,
believe
it's
that
going
too.
to be what it's going to be. No matter what you do or say, like, there's no going back in time and fixing something or taking, like, it's just what it is. So might as well get on board and do the best.
You sort of feel that when these things happen again, they're going to be like 10 times more energetic because it's going to be like they'll have been that year off, and everyone's going to be going. I just feel like everyone's just going to be like vibrating
Yeah.
with energy, ready to explode. So I feel like maybe those things, those opportunities that you were going to get this year, will be so much richer an
Yeah.
experience for having had this year off. It's all we can hope really is that there is that sort of same enthusiasm that artists are all feeling. I think from what I've spoken to of music listeners, there is that real and gig goers. There's a real kind of like I did this open mic night thing between the two lockdowns here, sort of September October time,
Oh,
and it was just we ended up just calling it music therapy night because it was just people coming out the woodwork, bands that couldn't gig, audiences that couldn't go to gigs, and they were just turning up because it was the only show in town, and everyone was just like,
really?
we need this, and I was really surprised at that reaction.
Yeah.
How have you found? I mean, have you been speaking much to your fans and things like that? I mean, how have you found that the lack of gigs has affected you, your band, and your audience?
It's a funny thing because I've definitely had moments during lockdown. It was it was 9 months
Yeah.
basically. There was one lockdown and then there was a break and then there was another lockdown, and uh you feel without a purpose, and that's a really that no one wants to feel like that. Like that's a
Yeah.
very dull, scary feeling, and I think that's what it was. And it's funny you say you did an open mic night because I hosted an open mic night online on Instagram during the lockdown,
All right.
and it was this, I totally agree. People like tuned in because they wanted to see. I had people who played, and like it was such a lovely way to connect with people who love music, people who
Yeah.
want to play. And so I think that those things are really, I think that's one of the best things I've learned from this year is like that connection with music. It's not just the music and the tours and the, you know, being, an artist or whatever. It's like the conversations you have with fans after a show, which
Yeah.
is what makes me feel all warm and fuzzy, not how good the gig was or how good the review was, whatever, if that happens, but it's like those really lovely conversations you have, and looking at someone from the crowd who's having a great time, or
Yeah.
or hearing someone else play a song and being really moved by it. That's what I have realized is that's feeds me more than other things.
Well, I think that's one of the sort of downsides of playing all the time is that you don't get to see other people play. And
Yeah.
something that this year has given us is that, when I've done my sort of my gigs, there's friends of mine who are musicians have watched me and then I've watched them, and it's like actually getting to see other people play, which you don't necessarily get to do a lot.
No, unless they're on the same bill as you. But then, it's a different thing. I think there's a particular joy of like going to see a gig you want to see, or go and hear a song that you want to hear and hear it live, and it's really
Yeah,
special.
absolutely. What were your early influence? Going back to your sort of beginnings now.
Yeah.
So what were the early influences like? What was your upbringing like in terms of music? Was there musicians in the family? Was there what sort of music were you listening to when you were younger? And what age did you kind of get into music as a thing you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, my dad was the big music lover in my family. No, neither my mum or dad played an instrument. There are singers further back and keys players further back, but no one I knew played music. And my dad loved Frank Sinatra. He was a huge Frank Sinatra fan. Um, and so I grew up listening to Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong,
Same
all
as me,
this.
yeah. So
Yeah,
my
like
dad was into
Cole
that.
Porter, Gershwin, Irving Berlin.
Do you have any
And
Irish
so
music growing up? Because you haven't you got Irish heritage on your dad's side?
yeah, but I don't know if we did. He loved the poet. No, I don't know if he's Irish. He loved Ian McEwan. That sounds like more Scottish. Irish and Scottish is my background.
Okay.
I don't think we did listen to
Because
much. My dad,
my dad had a really kind of like jazz side. Then suddenly had this like random. He'd have like sort of really sort of Irish folk stuff in there too, and it would seem to be sort
yeah.
of kind of an odd mix. But I wondered if you had the similar sort of thing. That's all. Sorry, Karen.
No, I don't know if my dad was very in touch with his Irish heritage, because they were, grew up in the suburbs of Adelaide. I never knew much about my heritage, but my dad once bought me the Cause CD, which I loved.
That was a good mix of pop and Irish stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
See, but you listened to all the jazz stuff. That was kind of I had a very similar sort of experience. That was always playing in our house. Ella
Yeah.
and Louis CD, especially.
Oh,
There's such beautiful songs on that.
so beautiful. I remember I was a strange kid because all the kids at my school, their parents listened to the radio and like the top 40, and my mum and dad were listening to Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald. And on the bus on the way to school, I had like my Discman, and I'd be listening to Ella and Louis in like grade 4,
Wow.
and everyone thought I was a weirdo, but
And the Wee Small Hours album, Frank Sinatra, that album
oh,
was just blew me away when I heard that.
beautiful. Has that got um I Get Along Without You Very Well on
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh, God,
That's
what a
just that.
song.
That's my when I'm feeling a bit down and it's about 3 in the morning. I just want to sit back and just feel really sorry for myself. That's
Yes.
that album.
Oh, and smoke a cigarette. I can't. I don't
Yeah,
smoke anymore, but
I do.
that
Yeah,
makes me want to.
yeah.
So
I have to
good.
take up smoking just for that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the sort of stuff that was. So you listen to that sort of stuff growing up,
Yeah.
and what sort of age were you when it sort of swapped to a more contemporary music? Because I'm assuming you
Um.
kind of something captured you with that had a guitar in it.
Yeah. I started playing the guitar really late. I was probably about 22,
Okay.
and I didn't start writing songs until I was about 24. It's interesting because my dad passed away when I was 24, and that's when I started writing songs.
All right.
Um. And I don't know what that was. I think it took me a long time to come to it,
Yeah.
and in that same thing of everything happens when it's meant to happen.
Well, maybe it was
I
that sort of you knew your dad had this sort of musical love for music, and that maybe just maybe something subconsciously made you feel connected to him to start to do music.
Yeah,
Maybe that was
I
something that you
think so.
shared
I
with
think
him.
it definitely isn't an accident that
Yeah.
happened. But when I was a kid, I remember I loved the Spice Girls,
Yep.
and I
Girl
loved
power.
oh, so good. And there's a singer in Australia called Tina Arena who was
Yes,
like,
we know Tina Arena over here.
really? Oh,
Was
good.
it? What was her song? I'm in Chains. Was that her one?
Chains. Chains. Yeah.
Chains. Yeah, that was the one. That's the song that really hit over here. We know Tina Arena.
Oh, good. I'm glad. She's wonderful. She's got a hell of a voice. But I remember when I was probably in grade 3 or 4, I was obsessed with Tina Arena, and I used to tape her off. You know, tape her off the TV when you had VHS tapes, and I had
Yeah.
Tina Arena at the grand final, Tina Arena at the ARIA Awards, Tina Arena on Hey Hey It's Saturday, and I loved her. So I remember being a kid, and I definitely was a kid that danced in my bedroom in front of the mirror to Tina Arena. It was either Tina Arena or it was like the Boy from Oz soundtrack. You know, it was like a mix of theater, musical theater, or pop. You know.
So, there's some strong female
Yeah,
role models going on there.
very, very, very.
So yeah, because I love this sort of, your sort of rebellious streak in your music is really something you can just sort of you can hear on the live album. The audience just going, yeah, this is you're a piece of shit and so am I, and all that sort of stuff. It's just absolutely perfect for that that sort of rebellious teenager.
Yeah.
Is that just sort of something that you just wanted to say those things like just
Yeah, I feel like my songs are very much the way I talk. I have a bit of a dark sense of humor, and I swear a lot. But I
yeah
also am quite optimistic and a happy person. You know, like generally, I'm a friendly, open person. So my music
yeah
is
yeah that
swearing
comes
and
across. Yeah.
joy and a bit of dark humor. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it seems it's real. That's you, definitely
Yeah,
you.
well, you know, and I put out 3 EPs before my first album, and it takes a really
Yeah,
long time to be you and to figure that out. But I
yeah.
definitely think,
What was it like getting that first EP? Because it was Trip was your first EP in
yeah,
2012. What was
yeah,
it like getting something recorded and out there?
it was bizarre, you know, and because I think I put some videos up on YouTube, and a producer emailed me and said, I love your voice. Would you like to make an EP? And I was like, what's an EP? Like, I didn't even know. It wasn't one of these people going, I'm going to make it and, oh, you know, I'm going to do this. So I didn't have a plan. But I went and recorded these songs with him, and they turned out, I was like, wow, you know, this is, you know, I think I wanted to be Lana Del Rey at the time. And so we used all these sort of 808 synth sounds and hip hop beats and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. But then I sort of had to pull it back and figure out who I was a bit. So the next 2 EPs are very much like writing songs and exploring sounds.
Yeah,
But
2013 seems to have been a big year for you. Reading
mm,
about sort of the Triple J Unearthed winner and getting you got a festival lineup, you got support slots with Vance Joy, and was looking at then you got your second EP then released that year. It seems like there was a year where you kind of things were starting to happen. It must have been
yeah,
quite exciting.
it was really exciting. And you know, the funny thing that happened at the end of that year or the beginning of the next year is I raised some money on Possible to record an album, and I developed nodules on my
Oh
vocal
no,
folds, and I had to stop singing for almost a year. So it was like, go, 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 let's
God.
keep going, let's build, 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 and then you have to stop. And it was,
You kind of had the 2020 coronavirus
I was.
of your personal your own
Maybe that's
personal
why
coronavirus.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's why I've rolled with this one, you know,
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. I've been here before. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a walk in the
So
park.
yeah, I know. So, and I didn't have to have surgery at the end of this year. So,
It's not over
um,
yet.
yeah, well, yeah.
but
um,
um, but then it's sort of looking at your sort of the musical, what sort of broke and the early bit seemed to be a really important single for you.
yeah,
That was not till 2016.
yeah.
But I suppose the break would have been before that, and you kind of came back from that. What was that? What was it like? That single kind of hit, did it? Well, and what was it
Yeah.
like? What was that? How did things change?
Yeah. And it was an interesting time when I released that song because it was when all the Me Too stuff was happening. So it was and I wrote that song about a personal experience that I had, and it had nothing to do with anything that was happening in the world, but it just hit at a certain time. And I think people responded to the, again, the sort of like, there was a message in the song, but it was really fun. So it was a bit, I always say that song's a little bit manipulative because I'm like, woo, but step off, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's actually a perfect um, it fits the message perfectly. I think that because it's a bit like you are, because all the times that you're being told you need to do this, you need to do that, for your career, and you need to look this way and look, act that way, and all these things, you are expected to smile and keep dancing and keep singing.
Yeah.
And there's actually that sort of really sort of dangerous, sort of dark side to the way that young girls are treated in the business, by certain corners of the business, I should say.
Totally.
But I think it's perfect atmosphere. I really got what you were saying, and I thought it was perfect for that. So I think it's important that it is upbeat and kind of, and you're obviously mimicking some of the things that are being said to you, and
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. I thought it was the perfect, because if it was all kind of dark, or if it got too angry,
Yeah.
like as great as Alanis Morissette's album was, and it was great. A lot of people were kind of turned off by the fact that she was very direct, and I think having a bit more of a palatable sound to atmosphere to it sort of I think that serves even better.
Yeah, and it was so good too. I loved it because I played some gigs. When I first started playing that song, I played a big gig supporting a band called the Rubens, and it was at Margaret Court Arena in Melbourne, and there were all these boys up in the stand singing along like, "You don't understand what it's like to be a man," and I was like, yes, this is a joyful thing. Let's have a conversation. This is not like girls against, women against men or whatever. Like, men understand this kind of feeling too, it's not. And I once played a gig at a LGBTIQ festival, and there was this beautiful trans woman singing it back to me, and I was like, whoa, you don't understand what it's like to be a man. I'm having a whole nother level to this line being sung at me. And it was like so nice. I think that's the thing about music too. I truly believe that once you write a song, it's not mine anymore. It's got, I have no business. No, my opinion.
There's got to be a little part of you that's going, I'm a fucking genius. Not that you'll ever say that, but you must be part of you going, this is fucking great. This is good. This is good.
Well, like sometimes I hate that song. Sometimes I hate all my songs. But
we'll get through
that's
that.
Again, all musicians are like that. But like again, that's that thing. I love my songs when I talk to a member of the audience after a show and they say, I listen to that song every day on the way to work, or something. That one-on-one feedback is what makes me go, okay, I'm going to write another song. Damn it, I'm going to pull my socks out in the bin.
Sometimes that sort of getting sick of the song just from you playing it so much, and you sort of forget that some people will discover you at different times. So even though you've been singing that song since 2016, someone's maybe only discovered it last year, and they're just maybe that right age, that those messages are important to them. And I always find that if there's songs that I'm sick of singing, normally sort of covers at gigs, and I'm like, I'm not singing this cover again, whatever. But but when you're singing and you see someone that's so into it, you sort of feed off their enthusiasm, and it brings a new enthusiasm to you. I find that's something that happens, and you sort of
totally
can't take for granted that how important the things are to other people. You think it's not about me, is it? It's,
no, you're 100% right, and that's the thing too. Like at a gig, I remember when I first started touring a lot, I would get really down on myself, and I'd walk off stage and I said that was bad, and I sung the wrong note, or blah blah blah, and someone would come up and say I cried, or and then I realized that it's not about me. It's like someone's there, and it's about what I can give to the situation rather than what I can get. Like I was trying to get some sort of like satisfaction or self-approval or something, but it wasn't about that. It's about how someone out there feels.
Someone out there might just really have needed that gig. That might be at a certain point that something's been going on in their life that they just, and that was their release. That was something that they were looking forward to, and absolutely.
Yeah. Well, because like I remember being at a Sharon Van Etten gig in 2013 or 2012, and I'd just been dumped. And I was standing in the middle of this gig and I cried the whole way through the gig. I just stood there crying. And it was so powerful and like cathartic for me. And like, I'll never forget that. So
yeah.
I needed that. I needed to stand there and cry while Sharon Bennett and sang it.
Who was this crazy guy that dumped you?
Loser.
Who was he? He's a loser, absolutely.
Thanks. I think so too.
There's a really important article that you wrote called "It's About Fucking Time We Gave Female Musicians the Credit They Deserve." Now, that seems to, I mean, that's carrying on from what we've been saying with Girly Bits, you know.
Yeah.
What was obviously there was a kind of a negative and positive reaction to that. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what the aftermath was of it.
Yeah, well, so I went back to uni. I started a music degree, which I dropped out of. And then in 2016, I went back to do a couple of subjects. And one of them was music history. And about 6 or 7 weeks into this music history class, I realized that we weren't talking about any women. So the classes were named after 2 artists. And it was like Bob Dylan and the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton, Phil Spector and whoever.
Yeah.
And 7 weeks in, I was sitting there going, there's no women.
Where's Joni Mitchell?
This is the thing. And that when I brought this up, they said, yes, they spoke about women, but it was in relation to the man, you know, so they did Phil Spector and they spoke about the women that, anyway, so I went home on a day. I don't usually do this, but I got a bit hot under the collar and wrote something on my Facebook page, and it kind of blew up a little bit, and my university called me in to have a meeting about this thing that I'd written. And I was really excited. I had all these notes. I was like, oh, cool, we can redo the course. And, you know, I've got all these women that we could talk about.
We're going to have a positive discussion about this, is what you were thinking. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I even had a friend who was like a head of gender studies at Sydney Uni, and we talked about all this stuff. And I went in there and they just got really legal on me. And they basically said, you have to take this down. Otherwise, they sent me lawyers' letters saying we're going to sue you, and for defamation. And my lecturer said, I've got a family to feed. Have you thought about how this could be detrimental to my career? And I was like, hang on, what is this? This is crazy. And so I dropped out of that course, and I kept getting letters from them to take down the post, and in the end I did, because I didn't want to go to court. The thing about the university is it was privately owned, so it's kind of different to like a university where you can have constructive things. But anyway, so I got more hot under the collar, and
they completely missed the point and thought of themselves.
They did miss the point.
So they thought of their own survival rather than actually, you know, what are we actually doing here to educate people? And maybe she's got a point.
Yeah, they got really defensive, and it was interesting. It was an interesting experience. But I
What year was this? What year was this?
2016. This was
not that long ago.
No.
You feel like maybe that wouldn't happen now. They seem like the sort of general sort of atmosphere in the world towards sort of equality and that sort of thing. You feel like it wouldn't happen in 2020, but this isn't not the 1980 something, or this isn't the 60s or the 70s. This is only 4 years ago. I mean, this is crazy, really, when you think about it, in terms of everything we've gone through this year with Black Lives Matter and all the kind of equality things that's going on. You feel like this wouldn't happen in the modern world, but it's only 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was shocking.
The year of Me Too. This is the year of Me Too, is it?
It was the year of Me Too. It was all
it's even worse.
I know. It was crazy. But yeah, and then so I decided to write an article about my experience without going into the uni too much, but talking about why women have been left out of history. You know, like there's been like perfect example was Yoko Ono. She's known as the woman who broke up the Beatles when she was like an artist in her own right before she met John Lennon. She and continues to make art. So and all women were seen as drug addicts or loose or something crazy, and it wasn't respected. So I wrote this article about it. I actually haven't read it for a while. I can't remember what I say, but I know that I mentioned Yoko Ono, and the reason I remember that is because she actually retweeted it when I posted it.
I read that. Yeah,
And,
what was that like?
Yeah, crazy. I was at work at a cafe during the day when that happened, and I checked my phone on a cigarette break, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I didn't believe it was real, but someone from my label called me and said, no, that this is
It's the
legit.
real Yoko. Wow.
So
I
that
mean,
was pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Sarah McLachlan used to have the Lilith Fair. I don't know if that's still
Oh, yeah, I
going,
remember
but
that.
that was it was something I think it pretty started in the '90s, isn't it? But
Yeah,
that was brilliant because you had it was all female artists, but it was like,
yeah,
but if though it's great to have their own festival, their own sort of thing, it was sort of felt like it was compartmentalized a bit too
yeah,
much. Entire, look, it's not. That's not integration. It's not equality. It's kind of we got our own
no,
thing over here. And it's sort of, but I can see why she did it, and it was an important thing to do at the time. And I discovered so many great female artists through that hearing those performances. But it's fantastic.
totally.
Is there nothing like that going on now? I don't know what happened with the Leather Fair. If it's still going, maybe I've completely put my foot in
I
it.
don't
But
know.
yeah,
Maybe there'll be like a resurgence. I feel like you're right, though. It's much more about people kind of feel the tokenism thing too much. So,
yeah,
around that 2016, 2017, there were, lots of like all female DJ lineups or bands and stuff. And people were like, don't just hire me because I'm a woman, or don't just do this. Like,
yeah.
let's look beyond gender. And, if I'm a
It,
good player, then
yeah.
if I write great songs and I can sell tickets, then put me on the bill, you know?
I think it's time for the About Fucking Time Fest.
Yes.
Come on,
Bring it on. And
let's
it's
make it
not going to
happen.
be virtual. Yeah.
The AFT Fest.
Yes. Love it. With a swear word in the title. It's my kind of festival.
Well, it's your festival. You're running it.
Yeah.
I'm just the ideas guy. I'm
Okay.
just,
Nice.
yeah. This female festival was the idea of a white man from London. That's not going to go well. You, but yeah. So what have we got on the horizon for next year? All things unpredictable taken into consideration. But if all goes well and we are kind of the world is opening up again, what's your agenda for next year? And if you haven't got an agenda, what's on the hit list?
Okay. Well, it'll be, so I'm going to put out, I've got a couple more singles that I'm going to put out. It feels like kind of like a palate cleanser, these songs, sort of like a watermelon sorbet in between courses.
Nice.
And then I want to do
I really want watermelon sorbet now.
yum. And then I want to do an album. So in between, I guess next year will be lots of writing because I'm not sure what touring will be, but definitely as soon as humanly possible and allowed, I will tour first Australia because that's where I'm closest to, but then I'd love to get back over to the UK and Europe and America. And we're even looking at in China and India. Because I've done all these live streams. I have fan bases in Sao Paulo and China. So I'm gonna explore the markets, get out in the world. It's gotta do it.
I went to Brazil once and it was fantastic out there. I mean, did a gig in Sao Paulo. I just love their music so much. It's just this huge amount of music fans over there.
They do, and they love rock too, which is such a cool thing.
Bands don't really go there either. A friend of mine who's English lives over, married to a Brazilian and lives over there, and he's big into his music. and he's been sort of, that's how we ended up there, was only when the Soccer World Cup was on, that the British consulate would actually subsidise bands going over. But he's been trying to lobby them to do that because UK bands don't go there because it's just too far to make it pay. So they're starved of music. There isn't local music over there. So that when you do turn up there, they go absolutely crazy. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. It's so good. And I love, the world is a big place and we forget that, especially, obviously the UK and Germany and America, they're like big markets and you want to do well there. But there's so many places, like India's got an incredible indie music scene and they love it. And so, I was meant to go and do a tour of India this year. So Far Sounds, you have So Far Sounds in the UK.
Yeah, that's sort of
right, and they have it in India. And I was going to do 8 shows around India in living rooms and cafes of,
brilliant.
That makes me really excited, that kind of thing,
Yeah, you can go and yell at some strangers in a small room.
That's right. But they love it too.
They want to be yelled at. That's good.
Yeah. They know what
they know what they're getting.
There's less yelling when it's just me and a guitar. There's probably more swearing because I talk more, but
but that's great to get out there, and I think that's something that maybe we're all going to sort of take less for granted, is getting out there, thinking, right, now that we're allowed to do this, you never sort of miss something until it's gone, and the idea of not being allowed to go anywhere, or something like the added enthusiasm of right, as soon as I can, I'm going everywhere.
Yeah.
And that will probably be the legacy for the music business of that 2020 will bring, the sort of realization that you never know when you might not be allowed to do it.
100%. It's true. Which I think everyone needed, because we probably took it way too much for granted.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of had their eyes closed and headphones on for the last few years. I feel like we've got to, okay, right, let's work out, let's get back to why we were doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
So, what's been the sort of highlight of your career? I'm going to do some proper music interview questions now for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend I'm a real journalist guy now. So what's been the sort of highlight of your career so far?
What's been the highlight of my career? My last record that Hello and Do My Best, I'm very proud of that. I definitely think that is the best thing I've done. And then, I've had, I don't know, I think the highlights are always not the things you think they're going to be. Like, I've supported some big artists and I've done some cool things, but the stuff that really makes me happy and is like a great piece of work that I feel proud about, or the songwriting connections that I've made. I've got some really strong friendships with songwriters and we always make great music together. So they're the things I'm proudest of. I'm proudest of, the people that I get to create with and the stuff I create. Yeah.
Excellent. That's good. And fantasy gig time. This is actually probably going to be this is the opening of the AFT Festival that we've we've just created. So it's you're on first.
Yes.
There's an act on after you, and there's the headline act, and they can be alive or dead or any era. They don't have to go together. You're not the promoter selling tickets. This is purely for your. This is purely for your enjoyment.
All right.
Who's on that gig?
Well, now this is going to sound terrible because there's no women. There's no women at my festival. But I'm going to have to say, because my favorite band, and you've only given me 2 options. There was maybe,
Let's do a female option as well.
Okay. My favorite band is Weezer.
Yeah.
So I have to have Weezer.
Yeah.
And then Dead, I feel like if I don't say Frank Sinatra, my dad would turn in his, I don't know where he is, but he would be unhappy. But maybe, so I would say Frank Sinatra first, but maybe let's have Ella Fitzgerald. So Weezer, and then the headline act is Ella Fitzgerald.
How about we have Ella Fitzgerald, who fronts Weezer?
Yes. Oh my God, can you imagine her scatting over some of those songs?
That'd be class. That'd be class. You just created a super group.
Yeah, I know.
Ella Fitzgerald and Weezer, the album that no one has ever thought about putting together.
The strangest lineup of all time. But
fantastic.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to have a recommendation. Now, we also recommendation on the show, so we ask you to recommend someone that people need to know. See what I did there with the Need to Know music show? So this is about, it can be anybody that someone you know that you want to give a shout out to, or it can be somebody you've already given. I was going to say somebody that's influenced you loads, but you've already sort of mentioned Weezer as one of those. But anybody that people should check out, basically.
Oh, golly, gosh. Who would I say? Who do I love? There's lots of amazing Australian artists that I should mention. I'm going to say there's an artist called Tia Costello. I don't know if you've heard of Tia Costello, but she's a young girl from far north Queensland, and she makes beautiful music. She's got an absolutely stunning voice, and she put out a record this year and didn't get to tour it and do all the things. She was meant to come to New York and Brighton as well. So go and listen to Tia Costello's record, Chrysalis. So she's wonderful.
So go and listen to that and buy it and
buy
everything.
it. And then when she does come to the UK or wherever you are, go and see her.
We'll all be in love with her by then, so it's fine. Yeah. Good. Excellent. Okay. And obviously go and check out your stuff too. Where's the best place for people to keep in touch with what you're doing?
I think Instagram, is where I'm, I'm on that a lot. And Facebook, obviously. And yeah, all my music is on Spotify and Apple Music and all the streaming sites. So yeah, but if you DM me, you're likely to get a response. So come and hang out with me on Instagram.
Excellent. And I have to mention the dog behind you.
I know.
Because I know there will be people that will have been mesmerised because she's kind of just moved. Is it she?
This is Adina. This is Adina Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen.
Not Adina Arena.
No, Adina Arena, that could be another name. And she's so sleepy. She's 8.5 weeks, and she fell in the pond today, so she's a bit exhausted. No. But she's very cute.
So beautiful. So no, I can't.
She's always
I thought we can't let the interview go without giving her a shout out because she's just been rolling around and just been. Oh, look at that! Straight down again. Brilliant. Just, that's like an embodiment of 2020 right there.
I know. That was me in 2020. The hiccup lying down all year.
Carpal tunnel in a paw.
Yeah, that's right. Just knackered.
This has been absolutely fantastic to chat to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Ali. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ronan. It's such a nice time. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Okay, we'll stay safe and stay well, and hopefully we'll see you over. When you come to the UK, give us a shout and come and see us.
Will do. I promise.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thanks, Ali. Take care.
Thanks, Ronan.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.